Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour with the $500 feature. VHS Massacre Too. In this scene, I'm talking with James, and we're just talking about how the independent distribution companies, some of the bad ones can have, let's just say, creative ways that they add cost to the sort of tab of your film so it never reaches profitability. You do have to be careful about contracts and things like that. Ultimately, no budget independent filmmaking is not a huge money generator. Although some people do break through. Blair Witch was cheap. Paranormal Activity. Primer I like because it was shot with I think a DVX 100. Independently made. Debbie Rochon, who helped produce both VHS Massacres, was just invaluable, as well as Tim Cooley. A good producer, can just put the project together a little easier for you. They might have resources, they might know people. And so that's kind of the thing. People are always like, what does a producer do? Well, they kind of build the movie. On no budget stuff, the director usually is also the producer. So they're director, producer, and they typically own the film. So, but you can bring on producers just for help. And they may have the same title. They may have the title producer, a co-producer, associate producer. And you can go into what that actually means. In the studio system, the divisions, I imagine, are a little more clear-cut. Like co-producer, for instance, a lot of the times that has to do with, let's say I worked on Terminator 1, but not Terminator 2. They might throw me a co-producer credit because maybe there's some advising that goes on or whatever. There's a consulting producer, There's all sorts of titles. Associate producer is, to some degree, I think that can be kind of a catch-all, getting stuff together for the project, Maybe you're getting the financing. Maybe you're bringing talent on board, and that could be even the director. That could be even casting. Maybe you're hiring the casting director. You could say sometimes the producer is the person who actuates the project, and then things get built out from there. The director will come in as the creative head and try to build the project. This is a film directed by Debbie Rochon. It's called Model Hunger, and Debbie had issues because streaming sites didn't want to take it because they didn't like the subject matter. There was a lot of gore and things like that. It just brought out the hypocrisy in some of these streaming sites, especially in their original content. Places like Netflix or Amazon, they can have their gore and nudity because they made the show. And then if it's made by like a low budget or no budget filmmaker, suddenly they get squeamish because maybe they feel it's trashier. As a company, they can decide to pull films off of their site, which is why it's so important that independent filmmakers have other alternatives. And we do to some degree. There's Full Moon, there's Midnight Movie Society, there is Troma. MVD is a very good distributor of independent content. So we decided to make these testimonials black and white because they were kind of coming on camera in a way where we hadn't seen too much of before. We tried to do things where we're interjecting in a certain way in black and white. James was a tremendous resource. He's a really good speaker. He knows his stuff, and so you need to find people like James to have your experts in the film because they could really add credibility to the case you're making. Though not every documentary does have to make a case, We were worried. When we were making this, we didn't know it was going to hit in any specific way. Like I was saying before that I started out doing these public access shows before YouTube, and we would talk about, B movies and Eric Roberts movies, on VHS. So I've always done this stuff. I never really thought it was that important. And so when we started doing the podcast in 2012 and looking at all this stuff, I realized, oh wow, that's I've kind of been doing this, for a very long time. Joe Barbiggs did us a favor and he let us interview him, but it was before his new television career. So this was 2012, 2013. The Last Drive-In it wasn't even close to being put up. So a lot of people after the doc came out said, oh, how'd you get Joe Bob? It's like, well, we got him because he wasn't doing the show. I don't want to say he wasn't busy. He was writing and doing all the stuff, going to conventions. But he didn't have a show, so he had more time available. But it was fortunate timing. We got him because we were just fans of his work, and we used to go to the conventions with our horror movies. We used to have our table with our horror titles, and you'd see Debbie Rochon, Ari Lehman, you'd see Joe Bob Briggs, so it was kind of the same people who go to these conventions. Mike Watt from Happy Cloud. It was really interesting. You'd see the same people. So that's kind of how you get to know people. Not a bad idea if there's a horror convention in your area and it's, easy to travel to and it's not too expensive, check it out because you might be able to meet people. This is my old apartment in Astoria, Queens. I walked outside the door and this was right outside my door. It was a smashed VHS tape. And I remember this stuff, like how the tape used to get loose and just go everywhere. It was weird because it brought back a very specific memory, So this Tromabilia VHS, I forget where I actually found it. It was in a box of VHS. The difficult thing about VHS Massacre 2 was that I wanted to concentrate on contemporary streaming, but I wanted to tie in VHS as well. The video store era paralleled what was happening in the streaming area. Conglomerates take over, ruin the deals for the small filmmakers, and then starve us out. So it was a parallel. It's very similar to what happened with the VHS area up through streaming. But it was good to find this VHS tape. It created this glue. So think about the theme. We had the independent VHS tape from Troma, where I could actually go to Troma and talk to Lloyd and meet him, versus the Blockbuster Video Joe Dirt VHS tape, which we sent home to the last remaining Blockbuster. So there was another parallel of the studio system versus independent, just the same thing as streaming versus no budget filmmaking. So I basically finally found a theme that I thought worked. And you will find that there are great directors like Ridley Scott who talks about, there's that theme in Gladiator where it's a hand brushing over a field of wheat and he opens a door. It's basically when he's remembering his home and then at the end when he dies, But that theme didn't come in until the very last minute. Locked in and it made sense to him. So it's the kind of thing where your brain kind of is onto something. You can't complete the thought yet, but you're gathering footage. And then in post, you kind of see what you were trying to do. And then you have to go and get the extra footage. That happened a few times. In VHS 1, we realized we needed to create the VHS Massacre at the end where we watch all the videos. And part of our brain probably knew something like that was coming, but we didn't actually have a specific idea. And then in VHS Massacre 2, and it was seeing the Blockbuster videotape versus the Troma videotape. It kind of worked out in a weird way. Because I believe I was talking to Tom Poya about shooting footage of the last Blockbuster before I found that tape. When I finally found the tape, I think I said, hey, Tom, can you do this last shot where I'll mail this to you and you kind of send the tape back to its home? And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And that was kind of the glue at the end. I didn't know I needed it at the time. Because if you can imagine, I'm just picking up a VHS tape from a thrift store and be like, oh, this is funny, Joe Dirt. And then you realize, oh, this is a theme I need to complete in the film. The reason why I think it works is because we're open about it. So this is the Blockbuster VHS tape, right? This is just all real. I mean, this is all, I'm just recording as I'm picking it up. And so that was genuine, and this is kind of a recap after.